Welcome back to Almost Pro, the podcast that dives into the real, untold stories of sport, from past athletes and industry experts, exploring the journeys and lessons that shape life in sport and beyond. I'm Frances, here with my co-host Laura. Today's episode is one we know so many of you will connect with. Whether you've been an athlete, coached one, or simply loved a sport so much it became part of you. We're joined today by Renee Fox, someone who has spent almost her entire life in the water. From learn to swim as a baby to state championships at 10 to training in a high-performance squad at 14, swimming shaped her childhood, her identity, and her dreams. But behind all the early success were pressures, expectations, body commentary, heartbreaking near misses, and eventually a fractured spine that led to surgery, years of rehab, and chronic fatigue that forced her out of the sport earlier than she imagined. Now, at 27, Renee's still figuring out what it means to love something that hasn't always loved you back, and how to rebuild a sense of self when your sport has shaped so much of your life. Her story is raw, honest, and incredibly relatable. Renee, welcome to Almost Pro. We're so glad you're here.
Thank you so much for having me. It feels so weird to hear that intro back to me. I know it's my own story, but it's like, oh, okay.
Yeah. The first chance to hear it all said by someone else.
Yeah, it's really, it's cool, but it's kind of weird at the same time.
What an incredible journey. First of all, state championships at 10 and then high performance at 14 tells me that we're specializing in swimming from such a young age. What was that driven by? Was that passion, or what got you into it?
I think I always loved the sport. I mean, I think I had to learn how to swim, and that was compulsory by my parents. I think living in Australia, where you're surrounded by water, it's such an important skill to have.
Yes.
And then I just didn't want to leave. I sort of stuck around. I was like, yeah, this is really fun. Get to hang out with my friends. And then it just grew into something that I didn't really expect. And I think I didn't really realize how serious it got so quickly either. And I think when you're in that bubble and everyone that you're friends with is also in that bubble, you don't know what it's like to be on the outside and to see what it sort of takes to be in it. And I remember my coach sort of saying at the age of 14, you got to pick, like, if this is what you want to do, you got to pick and choose your sport. Because I was doing a couple other things at the time, and I was like, oh, okay, yeah, I'm happy to do this, and didn't really think too much of it at the time. But looking back, it's quite early to sort of specialize in one sport.
It's such a commonly told story though, Renee, like how often Laura and I will hear people say at a very young age, if I was going to make something of this sport, I was young and I had to just choose. It was not, you can do a little bit of soccer on a Saturday and a little bit of this on a Wednesday night. It was, you're either swimming or you're not.
Yeah, pretty much.
When you knew it was serious and you're swimming with absolute pace, tell us about your national experience. So trialing for nationals and missing that.
Yeah, it was a pretty brutal experience, to put it lightly. I think, I was competing well at states and finaling and sort of getting close to that medal stage. And I guess swimming is a little bit different. You don't have to come first at states and that automatically means you go to nationals. It's all time-based. I know other sports, if you earn a certain amount of points or you compete in a certain amount of meets, that then gives you a qualifying. Swimming is based. So you can come last at states, but if you get the qualifying time, you get to go. So it is very different in that aspect. And I think I remember the first year I missed it, I was gutted. And I remember speaking to my coach about it, and he said, it's okay. Like, yes, it's shitty, but, there's always next time. And then you try again and you miss it again.
And do you wait a year before you try again?
Yeah, you got to wait another year. So it's another full year of training before you get to go again.
Yeah, well, you moved into some pretty high-performing squads during this time. Tell us about that.
Yeah, I was pretty keen to move up to the next squad as quickly as possible. And I wasn't necessarily in a rush, but I thought, I feel like I'm at my limit here. I need a bit more competition. And I was kind of surprised when the head coach said to me, oh, I'm thinking of moving you up. And I was like, oh, okay, that's kind of cool. And I didn't really think twice.
Was it during this time you moved into squads where there were grown men that you were having to train against? Did you feel, because you're still around 14 at this age?
Yeah.
Did you feel that was a jump?
Yeah. I mean, there was other people in the squad too. Like there was another girl that I was really close friends with who was the same age as me, and she was in the squad. So that made it feel that little bit easier. But yeah, there was at least 18 to 22, I would say the age of these men were, and they
Wow.
were training for Worlds and Com Games and then soon to be Olympics. So these were,
Yeah.
fully developed, fully grown through puberty men, very strong, who I'm training with, and you're sort of expected to keep up on those same cycles. And I was so keen to move into the group until I realized what was involved. And then as the training kicked in, I was like, wow, this is really hard. I'm really struggling to keep up. And so it was a struggle day in, day out, and being spoken to my coach every session about, this is the expectation, you need to meet it. And even in the gym, I was expected to do the same exercises as these men. And I was 14, I couldn't do chin-ups. Like
Yeah,
I
but your body's
couldn't do
going
that.
through so
And they were
much at
then supposed to
14.
help me. And so I remember one of the men, I should say, trying to help me. And he's like, didn't know how to help or position his hands to try and help this 14-year-old girl do chin-ups
Yeah.
in the gym, because it was just a bar, like it wasn't one of those weighted machines. And so he's trying to figure out how can he position his hands to help me do this chin-up without it being weird.
Yeah,
And so
You're a
it was
kid.
just, it was very interesting times.
Yeah.
Was your training and your results compared to other 14-year-olds? Or because you were in the high-performing environment, were your results only compared to the results that the men were achieving?
It's a really great question. I think it was a bit of both. I was definitely, obviously, when it came to competitions and meets, I was definitely competing, obviously, against other 14-year-old girls. But when in training and in that sport environment, I was being compared to the men.
Do you think that
And
pushed you, Renee? Do you think it pushed you harder, or do you think it made you go into yourself realizing that, you're entirely different beings, you and them?
I think it was both. I
Right.
think to begin with, it definitely pushed me pretty hard. And I was very keen to prove myself and
Yeah.
prove that I deserved to be in that squad. And
Yeah.
so I fought tooth and nail to sort of keep up with them.
Yeah. Prove
And then
yourself.
after a few months, it sort of gets you down, and my body was not coping with the workload that I was doing. And so it get to the point where it's like, what's the point? Like, I'm not making these
Yeah.
cycles. I'm working my ass off and I'm not getting the results. Why keep pushing myself to breaking point every time?
Yeah.
I remember this one time we'd had a really massive week of training, and it got to like the weekend and I was so sore I couldn't even get out of bed. And I remember calling my mum and being like, I need to go to the toilet and I can't get up. I need you to help me go to the bathroom
Oh,
because I
Renee.
was so sore. And I remember crying and being like, I can't go to training. How am I supposed to tell my coach? Like, what am I going to do? I'm going
Sorry.
to have to go.
So in that state, in, complete brokenness,
Yeah.
from overtraining, you were due to be back at the pool. Oh gosh.
Yeah, and I was so worried. I remember being in tears, being like, I'm just gonna have to go to training. And Mum's like, you can't even go to the bathroom by yourself. How are you gonna go? And I was like, I don't know, but I can't not go. Like, I have to go. It's
Mm,
either turn up and face it, or I'm gonna be in trouble. And I'd rather turn up and face it than get yelled at for not going.
yeah. When did you start to hear those messages that kind of we know exist in body image and swimming?
I think it probably would have started. I mean, there was always talks around it, and I think being a girl, you're always aware socially too. And I think particularly during puberty, like, oh, this girl's got her period, or it's like, so and so is wearing a bra now, and this person, like, you're always very aware of what's going on around you in
Yeah.
terms of how everyone else's bodies are changing and do I look the same as them? You're already aware of that, I think, from a really young age. But I think, and so there was always talks around that around pool deck and, different bathers that were people wearing. Some girls were confident wearing a training bikini and some weren't. And so there was always talks amongst us athletes. And
Mm,
I think the coaching aspect of it probably didn't kick in till I was about 16, 17,
right.
maybe. So I would say lucky in that aspect, because I know many people have had it way younger than that. But yeah, there was definitely commentary from,
And what
mid
does
to
it
late
look like
teens.
at 16 and
Yeah.
17 when coaches do start talking about it? What does that look like, and how does it shape then your view of yourself?
Yeah, it's so hard because there's so many aspects of sport where it's, you need to be strong and you need to be this and you need to do that.
Mm,
And I think
mm.
research for a long time, and there's body folds, like skin folds, and all those sort of things have been implemented for such a long time. Like all those things are definitely already in place. And I think a lot of people use that as a measure of performance, and it
Right.
doesn't
Yeah.
always mean the same thing. And
Yeah.
so some of those comments around that age was, you really need to get in the gym. You need to look like an athlete. And that's sort of how it started. And then it definitely progressed to various comments from that point forward. So yeah, 16, 17 is you don't look like an athlete, you need to get in the gym is sort of what
Renee,
it's.
first of all, for anyone that might be even a little bit unsure, it is never okay to
Mm.
make these comments, whether you are a coach, a parent, a friend, another competitor. It is not okay to make comments on body image in sport. Second, were you, through your training period, exposed to coaches and cultures outside of one club? Was this a consistent message from other coaches and other clubs? This discussion around body image, or did you find that this was driven mostly from the coaches at your club?
It was definitely very prominent in my club. I know us athletes and the people that I was in a squad with had been spoken to about it before. Like I wasn't the only one. I wasn't singled out or anything like that. And I was at the same club for a very long time. I didn't leave that club until the age of 18. And so I was there for a long time. And so that was sort of the world that I knew, but I definitely had friends from other clubs, and from conversations I'd had with them, they'd definitely been spoken to about it as well. So it was definitely going on, and you could see on pool deck at swimming competitions on the side of the pool deck, there's a really long table of coaches that sit there so they can
Mhm.
watch their swimmers and get times and splits and all those sort of other things to analyze the race. And you could definitely hear conversations going on around that.
Yeah.
And this
'Cause
person looks like this or this person looks like that, and those sort of things were definitely made.
you talked before about overtraining and being quite young. Let's talk then about how that can lead to injury, and needing to care for our bodies in a way that we're getting more and more information about now. We're seeing research and research funding going into particularly women in sport and getting a better understanding of how injuries are so prevalent for women compared to men in same sports. Let's talk about your experience with injury, and tell me, is there a relationship between significant injury, like spine fractures, and the types of training you were doing?
It's so interesting because I would generally say with my swimming career, I was pretty lucky with injury, apart
Right.
from my back. Um, Up until then, I hadn't really had anything major. So I'd had shoulder niggles and things like that. Nothing that really prevented me from training at all. Like nothing really took me out entirely. And even
Mm,
if I did have a niggle, I'd be over it within 2, 3 weeks.
yeah.
So I never had anything major.
Yep.
I did have a partial tear of a hamstring at one point. That was from school sport and then swimming combined. That overload doing that
Mhm.
definitely pushed me over the edge.
Mhm.
And the common phrase is swimmers don't run, and that phrase exists for a reason.
I love it. I love it.
Um, but yeah, I think I mean, you get swimmer's shoulder is a common terminology, like tennis
Yeah.
elbow and all those things. Like everyone knows swimmer's shoulder. And I was pretty lucky that I never really had that. It wasn't until my back injury that I had something that really severe, that really took me out. It's interesting because I had back niggles for a while, and so I was at a new club, and my coach at the time was very understanding, and he said, this has been going on for a little while. You've been going to the physio. You're not really getting anything improvement. We're not really progressing anywhere with this. The rehab's not really getting us any further. What are we going to do? And I was like, well, I'm doing everything that I can. Like, what else am I
Mhm.
supposed to do? I'm going to the physio every week. I'm doing all the things. I'm pushing through it, training the best I can. I'm still doing competitions. And he's like, yeah, but this isn't sustainable long term. Like, I understand doing everything you can, but it's not
Yeah.
sustainable long term. We need to
Right.
do something different now because it's not working. And so I remember going to see my GP and saying, look, I've got this back issue. I don't know what's going on. I've been going to the physio, explain the whole situation. And she said, oh, you're young, you're fit, you're healthy. Don't worry about it. Just keep going to the
Oh,
physio.
no.
And I was like, okay. So I sort of left it. And my coach was like, push harder. So
Mm.
I saw a different doctor. Same thing. You're young, you're fit, you're healthy. Don't worry about it. I think doctor number 5 or 6, I
Wow.
broke down in tears and said, something is wrong. Can you please just
Yeah.
give me a scan? I'm not leaving until you give me a referral to get a scan done.
Yeah. Yeah.
And they said, fine, I'll give you one, but I think you're going to be fine. And then that's when it came back. You've got a stress fracture in your spine, and 2 bulging discs and things like that. And it's a little bit of out of alignment. And I was like, okay, so I'm not going crazy. There is something there.
Yeah.
And so then the doctor said, okay, let's go and see a specialist. So I went and saw an orthopedic surgeon.
Mhm.
And he said, you don't need to have anything done right now. But if, you continue training at the level that you're at, it may get worse. And because of where the fracture was, it meant that the actual vertebrae itself could move around a bit, which means that it can impinge on nerves. And that's where you
Mm.
get long-term effects. And so he
Mm.
said, if we get it on top of it now, that should mean that long term you won't have any issues and we can prevent it from getting worse. And I was like,
Right. Yeah.
okay, great. It sounds like you know what you're doing. Let's do it. And he's like,
Yeah.
I've done this on golfers and they go back to doing their sport exactly the same as what they were doing before. And I was like, great, fantastic. Sounds good. Book me in. And he's like, I
Yeah.
can do it in 3 weeks. I said, great, done, sold.
Right.
And then I went home to my parents and said, by the way, I'm having spinal surgery in 3 weeks. I've booked it in. And they're like, oh, okay. Did you want to get a second opinion? And I was
Yeah.
like, fine, we'll just go with it.
Yeah.
Because remembering, you've had a handful of doctors tell you you're fine, there's nothing to see, and finally
Yeah.
someone's taking you serious. And you know the pain that you've been in. You know that
Yeah.
you're only getting enough physio to get you back in the pool week after week, but not get you any further than that.
Also,
Yeah.
let's just add in here that I know that shoulder injuries are the most common, among swimmers, but back injuries, I believe, are the second most common. You're constantly overstretching your spine. So, how on earth it took 5 to 6 doctors to decide that further action was needed for someone who was doing elite swimming is just beyond me. That's crazy.
And endurance.
Yeah,
Endurance.
and
elite swimming.
endurance. Right, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, I remember it was a couple of days before I was due to have surgery and I was at a competition and I was in a lot of pain at this point. And my coach said, you're having surgery in a couple of days. Do you just want to go for it and just see what happens? And I said, you know what? Let's just do it. Because if I do anything worse, at least, I'm getting it fixed in a couple of days. We'll be fine. And so I remember pushing so hard. I felt so awful afterwards and I felt very sick from all the pain and all those sort of things. I did great times. Like I swam very well. And I think it was just a matter of mentally the pressure was off because it was, oh, I'm injured. It doesn't matter anyway. And so that mental load of there's no pressure anymore on this race meant that I could actually swim very well. But I had surgery a few days later and I didn't do any further damage. And it was a very rude shock. I was in a lot of pain post-surgery. I'm very doped up on all the medications you can possibly think of, and I was maxed out on a lot of things, and it was awful. And I thought, if I had have known it was going to be this bad, I never would have signed up. Never would have signed up for this surgery. So I kind of thank my previous self for being so naive going into it that I thought, oh, the surgeon said I'll be up walking the same day, to be this, to be that. It's great. It's going to be fine. And it did take me a couple of days before I was even able to roll over in bed to let alone get up and do all these things. And if you can't get out of bed, then you can't eat because you can't go to the toilet and all these things. So you hadn't eaten for 5 days and you're starving and you can't do anything about it. And then you take pain meds on an empty stomach and it causes all these other things. So it was not a pleasant time. And being in lockdown through that as well was quite hard. And so then it sort of didn't stop my rehab, but it definitely delayed certain things. And so I was having to go into the hospital because it was the only way I could do my rehab. Go into the hospital. I did about 6 or 7 weeks of hospital rehab, and then things started to open up, and then I was able to do external rehab with the physio and then sort of get back to swimming about 5 months, I think, after the fact. And that potentially could have started a bit earlier if things had have been open. My swimming load would have looked very different. So the fact that it was pushed back getting in the water meant that once I got in, I could actually do a bit more than what I would have initially. So that
Okay.
was good going in, being like, oh, okay, I can actually do more than what was
Yeah.
expected the first time round. So this is good.
Yeah.
And, I about 6 months in, I did my first competition. Didn't go very well, but I gave it a go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I just really struggled to find a new norm with my body and learning to trust my back, and that being told that it is okay, I can push it to its limit. But knowing how much pain I was in before, it was really hard to be like, really get that 100% out of my back and trust
Yeah.
it. And even then, once I did, there was still niggles, and it was very hard to return to the sport that I had loved at the same capacity that I was before. And it really wore me down.
Yeah, I bet it did.
Yeah.
I bet it did. Did you ever make it back to the level you wanted to get to?
No, I didn't. I was able to get, I would probably say, about 70% of what I was before the surgery. But even
Wow.
before the surgery, I wasn't even at where I wanted to be. There was still some I
Yeah.
had left. I was competing very well up until my back, and that
Mm.
really hit hard. And then you start to resent your body. It's like, I know it can perform up here and it's only getting to here, and come on, I know you can do more than this. I've seen you do it before, and mentally I know it's there, and physically it's just not following suit, and that's really hard to grapple with.
Yeah.
So hard, Renee.
Particularly at such a young age, through any kind of recovery and of injury or surgery, you really need your support team in your corner. When you went back into the swimming environment, what was that like from your coaches, from your peers? Was there support? Were there plans to try and get you back to performing at 100%? What did that look like for you?
My coach was very understanding. He was very good, and he worked in with my physio. So we had like a group WhatsApp where we all communicated about, from the physio perspective, what I can do, what my coach is saying I'm actually doing. And then I would say, this is sort of what it feels like. And so we
Mm.
had 3 people inputting into this conversation into what it sort of looked like. So my coach was very supportive. I don't want to say that my teammates weren't supportive. I just don't think they understood the severity of what had happened to actually show the support that I probably needed at the time.
Mm.
Right.
We see people get injured all the time. They sort of go in a different lane because you can't keep up in the same way, or you have altered sets and things like that. So they just sort of put it down as to anyone else that would be injured, whether that's an ankle or a shoulder or
Right.
whatever. It wasn't seen as, oh no, this is actually probably a bit more severe than
Mm.
typical quote unquote injuries. And so it wasn't the support that I probably needed at the time.
Yeah, for the type of injury you had.
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Renee, if we move from back injury and then trying to make a comeback in a sport that you're clearly very competitive in and very good at, only there's a new version of you now that you're trying to learn how to live with and how to coach and train this new body with this back injury and what it needs to be. We move forward to the next chapter for you in swimming. Tell us what comes after all of this, after the back injury, after the comeback. What comes next?
And now, time for a short break. Don't forget to like, follow, and subscribe to join the Almost Pro community and stay up to date with the latest episodes and news. To find out more or to apply to be a guest, visit almostpropodcast.com today.
Yeah, I think it was very hard to come back from, and I did my everything I could to get back, and it wears on you, and you really start to, as I said, I started resenting my body. I
Yeah.
really disliked that it couldn't do what I wanted it to do. And because then my training load had reduced, my body changes with that. If you cut your training in half, of course your body's going to look different. That started to change. My love for swimming started to disappear. I would turn up. Not that I didn't try. I don't think that's the right wording, but the effort and the love wasn't there.
Mm.
So the intensity to push past that 100% to sort of be better, that was gone. And I really
Mm.
lost that. And that was really hard to find. And, my coach sat me down and said, I can see that you're not loving it. Why are you here? And I said, because I want to love it. I'm here because I'm trying to find that
Yeah.
love
Wow.
again. And I'm waiting for it to come back. And he said, but how long are you going to wait? Like you need to put a time frame on it. I said, but I don't know. It could happen next week. It could happen next month. It could happen next year. I don't know, but I'm not ready to leave. I still have so much that I want to achieve in the sport. I don't want to leave it yet.
Mm.
And so that was really hard. And then I was like, now I feel like my coach wasn't giving me 100% because he could see that I wasn't giving 100%. And it just become very complicated, I
Yeah.
guess. And
Yeah.
yeah, wanted to be there, but not wanting to be there at the same time. It was a very love-hate relationship.
Yeah.
Oh,
So
no.
when did you make that final call then?
I think last year, around mid-year, I started getting very tired, and I knew I had a lot on. I was working full time whilst training full time, and that's a lot in itself.
Mhm.
And, I was trying to say with work, I had the flexibility of working from home on certain days. And so I'd shift my hours earlier so I could go to training in the evenings and things like that to sort of accommodate that. And my workplace was very understanding and very supportive in me keeping up my sport, which was very good. And yeah, I just become very tired. I was like, this is crazy. And one of the guys that I used to swim with was coaching at the time. And he was there. And I said, I'm so tired. And in the gym, it feels like every week I'm having to reduce the weights. And it still
Mm.
feels hard. Like, this is crazy. And he said, take some time off. He's like, it sounds like you just need a break. And I was like, oh, I'm going on holiday soon. I'll just wait till I go on holiday. He's like, you're tired now. Take time off
Yeah.
now. And I was like, okay, no worries. So I took some time off, and I feel like once I let my body stop and
Yeah.
rest, it just fell into a hole. It was like, "Oh, we
Mhm.
can
Yeah.
rest now? Okay, we're resting."
Mm.
So I
Yeah.
was sleeping, 10 plus hours a night and then still wanting to nap at least 2, 3 hours during the day. I
Wow.
was exhausted and thinking like, "This is crazy, like, no one
Mm.
can be this tired." And I was like, "It's probably just my iron." Went, got a blood test, and she's like, "Your iron levels are fine, all your vitamin minerals are fine, nothing to worry about." I was like, "Nah, something's not right, like, this is
Yeah.
this is a bit weird."
Yeah.
She goes, "Okay, we'll do some further testing." New GP. I found a new GP. We didn't go back to the old one.
You got a
And
list of GPs.
I
Yeah,
really
yeah.
do. And so she's like, "Okay, we'll do further testing." She goes, "We're gonna eliminate everything we can." And she goes, "And if once we eliminate everything," she goes, "maybe it's burnout." And she goes, "There is no test for burnout or fatigue or anything like that, but we'll eliminate everything else before we get to that point." And so we did all the testing, and it basically come down to the fact that we'd eliminated any sort of other diagnosis that you can test for, and said,
Yeah.
this is chronic fatigue. It's going to take time. You can go see, I can never say the word, rheumatologist,
Yep. You did well.
one of them,
Got
um,
it. You got it.
specialized in like autoimmune and the chronic fatigue space, and,
Yeah.
creating adaptions for me. And I was just so tired all the time. And so I had planned to just take some time off and come back to the sport. I was like, I'll take a couple months off, recoup, and I'll go back. And so
Mm.
I know over the summer I started swimming on my own. I was like, if I'm going to go back into the sport environment, I need to make sure that I'm ready for that kind of
Yeah.
intensity, that kind of workload again. So I swam by myself. I pushed, got up my Ks. I even did a 10K by myself. I was really pushing hard to get back. And I spoke to my coach. I said, hey, look, I did a 10K by myself at the pool the other day. I'm ready to come back to that environment. And he said, okay, I understand you want to come back, but when you left, you didn't love swimming. Is that still the case? And I said, oh, yeah, but I'm really keen to come back. And he said, you haven't really quite answered the question. If you don't love swimming and you don't want to do the intensity and the load and the effort that it requires, swimming in this environment is not for you. I'm not saying don't swim, but coming back to
Mm.
this environment is probably not the space that you need to be in. And I was really frustrated. I remember being so angry with him and thinking, how dare he decide when I get to leave? Like, that's not okay. This is my decision. If I want to come back, I should be allowed to come back. And he said, you don't need to make a decision right now. Think about it. Just think about it. Go swim on your own. And I said, yeah, but I need, I don't know how to train by myself. I need someone to help me create these sets. There's only so much I can do on my own. And he said, okay, just get in the water. And I said, yeah, but do what? He goes, don't care. Just get in the water. He's like, fall in love with being in the water. It's like float for like,
Yeah.
just enjoy being in the water again. And I just couldn't understand what he meant. I was like, how stupid are you? Like, who's going to just go down to the pool and just float? Well, who do you think I am? Like, I'm a swimmer. I'm not going to go float. So I was like, what is he talking about? And so I continued to swim by myself, and I was like, no, I think I understand what he means. He's really wanting me to find that passion and that joy, and it wasn't there. And then I went through this phase of, well, I don't want to train then. Like, I don't want to commit to this rigid lifestyle that I had before. And I got used to having Friday nights to myself, which I hadn't had for my whole 26 years of my life, have a Friday night to myself, or not have to get up at 4 o'clock in the morning. I didn't know what that life looked like. And it was the first time that I got to feel what everyday normal people experience. And I was like, this is kind of cool. I can stay up until, 11 o'clock at night and not have to worry about getting up early tomorrow. And then I almost resented that routine and the thought of then having to, I was like, oh, but I need to stay fit and I need to stay healthy. I'll go for a swim or I'll go to the gym or I'll do that. And I was like, but I don't want to. Like, I don't want to have to commit to this lifestyle again. I don't want to have to commit to this rigid routine again and get up at 6 o'clock in the morning, go to the gym and then go to work. Like, I don't want to do that anymore. I have the freedom to choose. I don't want to keep doing the same as what I was doing before when I didn't love it. And then I almost resented all exercise and this whole routine. I was like, I want spontaneity and I want this and I want that. And that then leads to other things. And then your body changes again. And it's like, oh, but now I don't like what it looks like. I need to get back to the gym and I need to do this and I need to do that. And it's like, but then I don't want that lifestyle. And it's this constant back and forth and this give and take of this is what I want, but I'm not prepared to do the work and what it requires to do that anymore. And it's been this really interesting shift that I still am working on. I still have days where I'm like, wow, I really, really don't want to go to the gym today. I really don't want to do this, but I know it's good for me at the same time. And it's really hard to learn how to enjoy exercise without a performance goal.
Yeah.
So real.
Yeah.
So real. Renee, you just said some incredibly powerful and profound things in your last few sentences. That, the retirement phase, I don't think we always realize we're in initially, except the rebellion that takes place in our mind and our bodies, where we go, all of those things that were so binding required so much sacrifice. I've now had a taste of what other people are doing, every other normal person who's not an athlete is doing on their Friday nights or Saturday mornings or whatever it is. And I just want this for a while. And I don't even know how long a while is, but right now, you've just lifted the lid on something that in my 26 years on earth, I've never been able to experience. And so I'm going to sit in this for a bit.
Yeah. And I still feel like I'm very much in that even now. And I still haven't figured out, and I don't want to say the perfect routine, or formula. I still don't know. I'm still figuring it out. It's still very hard, even now, a year later.
Yeah. Because it's a long time to have structure. A
Yeah.
really, really long time.
Yeah.
Yeah. We had a few chats before today, and there was something that really stood out, which is you mentioned that you had gone about making friends outside of swimming, but didn't actually tell them that you were a swimmer and about your swimming background. Why?
It's interesting. I made a few new friends this year, which has been really great. I think in your 20s, so many friendships evolve and change and disappear, and then you got to find new ones. And it's really hard as an adult to make friends. I think as a kid, you just like, hey, I like you. We're friends now. And it's so easy. And I wish it was that easy as an adult, but it's hard. You got to do the small talk and the weather's.
Have you tried wearing light up? Have you tried wearing light up shoes? My kids find that works.
I should
kids really like them.
Maybe the shoes with wheels, maybe as well. Maybe that's what I need.
Heelys. You need some Heelys. I love it. Sorry.
No. And so I started making new friends this year, and they sort of asking about like who I am and all these questions. And I didn't bring swimming up because whilst it was such an important part of my identity, and I guess still is, it didn't feel right to say that I am a swimmer or I was a swimmer, because I didn't feel attached to that lifestyle anymore.
Wow.
And still sort of resenting that I didn't achieve the things that I wanted to do. I didn't get to leave the way I wanted to do. There were so many things that were left unfinished that I didn't feel like I had earned the right in a way to talk about it.
Mm.
And so I just didn't bring it up. Whilst it hasn't come up in conversation, there were definitely ways that I could have made it part of the conversation. You know, I speak about loving sport and I work in a sporting environment and all these sort of things. There were definitely ways that I could have brought it into the conversation, and I chose not to. And I remember speaking about this with my therapist, and she said, "Why is it that you don't want to talk about it? Why is it that you don't want to share?" And she said, "I understand that that's not your life now, but it was your life for such a long time and a very important part of your identity for a very long time. And I think ignoring that whole part of yourself is very dismissive
Mm.
and not." And I said, "Yeah, but I didn't achieve the things that I wanted." And she
Mm.
said, "Yeah, but you're dismissing how much time and effort and how much love you had for the sport. Like, you're dismissing all the good things about it too.
Yeah.
And it shows how hard you work, and it shows your commitment and your discipline." And she sort of listed off all these things. And I said, "Yeah, but I just don't feel like I've earned it. Like, I feel like I don't get to talk about it. I wasn't an Olympian. I wasn't on an international team. It doesn't feel like I get to talk about it." And so I'm still sort of working through those things and what talking about it looks like and how I share it and how much I share. But yeah, that was the general consensus of why I haven't sort of spoken about it. And even now, I don't know, I really haven't had those conversations with some of those newer friends yet either. Some of them know bits and pieces, like I used to swim, and that's probably about the extent of it.
Mm. Do you know, we're so grateful that you are talking about it with us, though.
Yeah.
And we're grateful that perhaps this conversation is a part of the next phase for you as well, in the reinvention and the reestablishment of what new structuring looks like, and what you'll do next. I think I would love, not to correct you, but to give you some languaging that while you may feel like you didn't achieve the things you wanted to, we know you've achieved plenty nonetheless, and you've achieved plenty in sport, and you're
Mm.
continuing with what you're achieving in these conversations, in giving words to someone else right now who might listen to this and say, yeah, I feel like that. And it's nice to know there are people out there who understand how I'm feeling as I'm making my transition. So you're doing more than you realize, Renee.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing is I just wanted to help one other person. And I think even while I was at Samin, there was a younger girl, and I'll give her a shout out, Hannah. She's awesome, and I still in touch with her to this day. See her as like a little sister, and she sees me like a big sister. And I'd always sort of give her advice. Try not to overdo it. Try not to do it, unprompted. And she would say, what do you think about this? Or how should I go about this? Or, and ask her all
Mhm.
these questions. And I was like, don't ever lose this curiosity. Please keep asking these questions to whoever will answer. And so, I always made sure to try and take the time with her and answer as many questions as said, please keep asking me anything. Nothing is off the table. And even now, she'll still ask me questions about certain things or advice about boys or whatever. Like, it doesn't just have to be about swimming anymore. And so it's really nice to sort of be that role model and that leader for her. I think that makes me feel like what I have done, I don't want to say worth it, but makes me appreciate it more.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And I think, you highlight an incredibly important point. While we're able to do these conversations with people who are journeying now through walks we've already traveled, whether they're younger or their path is just different, it reminds us every step of those conversations, the achievements that we've had in our own lives, even when they felt hard at the time. Now we understand how to walk through that. And now we can show someone else how to walk through that. If I was then to layer, I suppose, the thinking of that, I would say to you, Renee, inside you is a younger version of you, some, 12-year-old Renee, whether she's 14-year-old Renee, whether she's getting back surgery Renee, choosing a younger version of yourself. What advice would you give a younger version of you with the knowledge you have now?
It's such a tricky question because I don't know whether I'd take on that advice. And that sounds kind of weird, but I think I've
Yeah,
always
yeah,
been
yeah.
someone who would say, "Oh yeah, what do you know?" type thing. And so I think I'm very much someone who has to live it for myself to fully understand something. But I think if I did say something, I think would be just enjoy it more, like really focus on those friendships, because when you love something, you automatically become better at it.
So
That's such
real.
a good
What a
point.
beautiful piece of
Mm,
advice
mm.
in itself. Renee, you've been amazing, and this conversation has been truly heartwarming. I love that Laura and I, you're now part of our Almost Pro family,
Absolutely.
and whether you like it or not, we will now attach ourselves to you, and we'll follow your journey from here, because we love to see what our athlete family does next, and the footprints you'll leave across the sporting community and more broadly. And whilst we've had this discussion, you do now need to play a game of this or that with us, because no one
Okay.
leads without a little round of quick fire. And if you're ready, we're ready.
Yeah, I'm ready. Hit me with them.
Ready? All right. Breaststroke or freestyle?
Oh, breaststroke.
She starts hard. Beach day or bushwalk?
Beach day.
Short course or long course?
Short every time.
Podcasts or playlists?
Oh, podcast.
Morning or evening training?
Morning.
Race day adrenaline or training consistency?
Oh, that's hard. Race day adrenaline.
Ice bath or hot shower?
Ice bath.
Hitting a PB or perfecting a technique?
PB.
Physio or massage?
Or physio.
Squad sessions or solo?
Squad.
Gym or social netball?
Social netball every time.
Early nights or late nights?
Early.
Letting go of goals or reinventing?
Reinventing.
And the very last one, listening to your body or pushing through?
Listening to your body. I wish I knew that earlier.
Renee, you're wonderful. Thank you for playing this or that. You have survived.
Thank you.
Renee, thanks for joining us. As Frances mentioned, this has been absolutely incredible. Your story is one shared by so many athletes. The weight of potential, the pressure to perform, and the heartbreak that comes when your body or your mind says, not anymore. But what stands out is your courage, the courage to choose retirement before the sport chose it for you, the courage to rebuild a new identity, and the courage to show other athletes that being perfectly flawed is exactly what makes us human. Renee, thank you for your honesty, your vulnerability, and your leadership. And to our listeners, if you're navigating your own identity shift, your own almost moment, we hope today reminded you that transition isn't the end of a story. It's the start of a new one. And to everyone listening from home, the gym, or on the go, if you enjoyed this episode, make sure to follow and subscribe to stay on the Almost Pro journey. And if you've got a story to share or know someone who does, we would love to hear from you. Head over to almostpropodcast.com or our social media pages at Almost Pro Podcast to get in touch.
Thanks, Renee.
Thank you so much.